NJ Spotlight presents its Roundtable series. In this program, Camden Schools and the Future of Urban Education in New Jersey. This program was recorded April 1st, 2013 at Rutgers University in Camden. This program is brought to you by the Cooper Foundation on the web at cooperhealth.org and by the New Jersey Education Association at njea.org and We Can Do Better for Kids on the web at wecandobetternewjersey.org. The panelists in this program are Gloria Bonilla-Santiago, Overseer and Board Chair of the Leap Academy University Charter School in Camden. Sean Brown, a member of the Camden Board of Education. Karen Douglas Collins, a math teacher at Pine Point Middle School in Camden. Pam Garwood, Program Director for the New Jersey Education Association. Ryan Hill, Founder and Executive Director of Team Schools. George Norcross III, Chairman of the Cooper Health System. Monique Ragsdale, Camden Community and Parent Advocate. And Kathryn Ribay, former member of the Camden Board of Education. The moderator for the program is John Mooney, Education Editor and co-founder of NJ Spotlight. In this program, Chapter 2, the panel continues its discussion. At the lectern is John Mooney of NJ Spotlight.
I've had a couple questions, and this is for George Norcross. Not disconnected from, as a Democratic leader, you in this county. You've been in this, you've been following this district for a long time. Why can't some of these things have happened within the current structure? Some of these players. Why does it need the state to step in for some of the things that you've, I think rightfully signaled as problems in the district to be corrected with the local district as opposed to having a state role?
Well, the answer to that is simple. It's leadership. And every one of the members of this panel have said in one way or another the same thing. Leadership matters. Leadership matters of a business, an organization, a labor union, and any kind of community organization. Leadership matters. And we can go on with example after example of where that leadership has failed, and failed miserably. And I think one of the members here said it correctly. This should be about looking forward, not looking backwards, because backwards will just occupy everybody's time in a useless example and discussion of what's failed, instead of thinking about and working together to find out what can work. That's the dilemma. And the dilemma also mandates the engagement of all the various constituent groups. That's the difference this time versus what I sense happened in Newark, happened in Jersey City, and happened in Patterson. You have a different series of circumstances that have taken place here. I'd like you to think for one moment and pause and consider if the Cherry Hill Public Schools were in this condition, what do you think would happen? The superintendent would have been fired. The business administrator would have been fired. All of management would have been fired. What's going on here is a state execution of a change that needs to be effected. Now, there's no proposition where the state can mandate or dictate and cure all the evils of what's going on here, because everyone in this room knows that poverty has a lot to do with what is going on in this school district. You could send every child from the Camden School District to Cherry Hill or the best parochial schools or Haddonfield or otherwise. Improvement would happen. The question is, would it be an overnight answer? And the answer is obviously no. The economic circumstances and social atmosphere in this city are such that change is needed. And I don't think anybody up here can say what that change effectively is, but it does start with leadership. It starts with those that are committed to a cause that may differ in terms of opinions about how to get from point A to point Z. But specifically, what do I think is different this time? You have a governor that's committed. I'm not sure past governors who have taken over school districts have shown a commitment that this administration has shown to this city, whether it be in public safety, whether it be in funding to this city, whether it be coming to this city and taking along with the leadership in the Democratic legislature on a bipartisan basis a way to make things better and different. At least they're trying. There are too many people that want to talk about the past and what can't work and talk about failures. We need to talk about what can happen and reason together to make it successful.
Pam, do you want to add something?
And I've had the pleasure to meet George and have some conversation with George about Camden City. But I do want to talk about the state, meaning Camden, and the state takeover, because I'm working very intimately with the new state initiative in Camden City. Yes, the state has been in Camden City for 20 years, taking over the financial part of Camden City. They have been ranked with CUSAC, which was mentioned earlier, and they got a low C. They came up with the best.
I think it was lower than that.
Maybe, well, okay, maybe I was a high. You know, I graded on a curve. The other thing is that last year the Department of Education created the most innovative plan to support urban education, which has been my career for the last 35 years. And I also want to let you know I am a quasi-Camden. My father was born and raised in Camden, and my father-in-law graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School, and my mother-in-law worked at Lady of Lourdes. So I want to see the Camden I remember when I was coming to Camden with my family. They created the Regional Achievement Centers. 24 of Camden schools are working intimately with the New Jersey Department of Education, RAC. It is supposed to be the best thing that's going to happen to urban education in New Jersey. They are so committed to it that outside entities are funding it with private funds. Now the Camden RAC, I think Camden City's been blessed, but I think a very innovative RAC director and some RAC people that are working. At this time, they are building a comprehensive K-12 literacy program where Rowan, Rutgers, NJEA, the CEA, the coaches, the supervisors, the teachers are working. They are building something consistent that has never really happened before. They are helping teachers from the top down, where NJA is helping with the bottom up, to embrace the new core common state standards. Why, when so much money and so much fanfare has been given to these 7 regional achievement centers throughout the state, wouldn't they let them even finish a year or two of this innovative work before the state came in to take over? So the state is here.
Yeah, and let me follow up with George on your point, and somebody asked this, what is you speak about a lack of leadership. What are the qualities of leadership you think that this district needs that would make the difference? What kind of leadership is missing from your perspective? I'm just following up on your point.
I think you need a strong leader. I think having a leader that can make decisions individually, but has a common interest in, as I said, gathering the various constituencies and sitting down and working together. You cannot have an adversarial relationship with the NJEA, who represents the teachers. You need the teachers to be part of the solution, not part of a continuing engagement of problems. You have to get parents engaged. You have to get religious leaders engaged. You have to reach out to the entire community. But you need a leader who's prepared to make hard decisions, who's prepared to lead, and not act as the state has acted as long as they've been in the district. As long as they've been in this district, they've been a veto mechanism, not an initiative, not leaders, in my opinion. And that's what the state monitor is. State monitor is able to veto actions. They're not the ones responsible for not getting out school supplies, as Sean talked about. They may be the ones that block spending, but they're not the ones that prevented that. And I'm sure everyone in this room has examples of failures that have occurred. But each of you, in your employment, in your communities, in your lives, all recognize leadership matters. And if it's not working, it needs to be changed. And you do have an administration and leaders in the legislature that are demanding and affecting change and prepared to put their money where their mouth is.
Kathryn, you wanted to follow up on that?
I think that, yes, I would agree that leadership matters. I think we very much disagree on what leadership means in education. I think we tend to look at it, there's very much a trend right now to look at education through a business model and say, okay, leadership at the top, how is that going to go down? Ultimately, what we need are leaders within the classrooms and within the buildings. And we can stand up here and we can talk about the qualities of a superintendent, and yes, it matters a lot. But at the end of the day, we need to be building the capacity within our teaching staff so that they can become leaders in their departments, leaders in their schools, because at the end of the day, that's where education happens. It's in the classroom. And my concern is these initiatives, they don't see that. And sometimes I feel as an educator that I'm just like yelling this over and over, and nobody who's making these decisions will hear it. But you want to make change in education, it's got to start with the teachers.
I do want to move on to sort of talking about what are some turnaround strategies happening in the schools. But I'll go back to Sean as the one member on the board who's still here. I know you don't speak for the board, but any predictions on how the board is going to act? I think there's a 20-day time limit on this for the board to either acquiesce or move on or to appeal. I'm sorry. Do you want to speak to what happens next?
Sure. So I would start with me, and I saw Matt Katz here earlier. I was sitting at the press conference last Monday and reading tweets, and I saw from one of the reporters, I'm not sure if it was Matt or Phil, or one of the reporters reported that some of the board members that I sit on the board with were officially in support of the takeover. And I was shocked to see this because I found out about it the day before. No one ever asked my opinion. So somehow a third of our board is voicing its support for a takeover when the details weren't released yet, which means that somehow politics co-opted the process, which in part is why Kathryn quit, obviously because of that co-option of politics. So here we are the following day talking to the Commissioner of Education and the mayor, where the mayor who's appointed all of us is obviously in strong support of the takeover. So the law says that we have to do, it's a term, order to show cause is the legal term. We have to write to a judge and say, Judge, don't approve to this takeover because of X, Y, Z, and we have to list those things out. At least that's the process. So where we are right now, and Ray, I'm being real careful. Where we are right now is by April 15th, there will be a response to it. And my prediction is what and I know I put it on Facebook and maybe a few people saw it, the 8-page or 9-page document of what the takeover actually looks like compared to 11 pages. Okay, the 11-page document, what the takeover looks like and what actually happens. I do think there will be some room for negotiation in that. But I think that overall people have accepted that this is inevitable, the term that you've used, and it will happen. And if you don't mind, let me just share what some of those things are in terms of takeover, because when people say that the state's already been here, the provisions in the takeover are very different than what we've seen. So one thing, and this would make some people on the panel happy, is that the superintendent, the two superintendents, the director of human resources, and the business administrator will have to resign. Next, the board obviously won't have any voting rights. It will become an advisory board, and whether it's 9 or 12 is up to the commissioner. That's not in place yet. Third, all professional services contracts that are currently in place could be automatically terminated by the new superintendent, and that's everywhere from food service to attorneys to all sorts of contracts that are in place will be in the hands of the commissioner and the new superintendent. And then obviously the superintendent would report directly to the commissioner and not have a board to talk on. So the board would be advisory, which means the board would still meet on a monthly basis and still talk about stuff and be the representatives of the community, but the superintendent would need the board's final approval for things to go through, meaning that the superintendent would be a super powerful person in the district. So our board's place, the current board of education, the current 8 members now that are on there, we had to get this response. And again, my prediction is that there will be a negotiation, and there won't be a major shift from what the state proposed when it in its takeover documents.
Somebody asked, won't you feel disenfranchised? Won't the community be disenfranchised by? I mean, you're a board member, and Monique, I want. So that's
a very good question. This is pretty complicated. So in the mid 2000s, there through the Muir legislation, the Municipal Recovery Economic Revitalization Act that was passed. The way the Board of Education was designed was 3 people were appointed by the mayor, 3 people were appointed by the governor, 3 people were elected. When Corzon's last day of office, he signs the new version of Muir. One of the things that happens is our school district goes to a type 1 district. And this was intentional, obviously, by the politics. It was designed so that the mayor, who they already knew the day the governor signed, that would be Dana Red, would appoint all the school board members. And obviously, I'm one of the people that was lucky enough to get there. So, if disenfranchisement means the voters don't have a say who's on the school board, then you could argue that was already in place. You could also argue that the voters elected Dana Red mayor. Overwhelmingly, I mean, she had over 85% of the voters. Sorry, wasn't that much? Okay, but she obviously she was elected. And there's one other point though, and I see Monique is on here, and I see a couple people in the audience, Keith and Gary. If people come to a school board meeting, and I get to say this because I'm pretty strong on this. If people come to a school board meeting and complain about something will happen to fix it. If people just show up and speak out about an issue that's legitimate, something will happen to fix it. Something will happen to fix it. And to those out there in the audience, I encourage you to encourage, especially parents, to continue that process. Whether it's an advisory board, a superintendent, no matter what happens, things will happen if people are speaking out against it. People in Camden for too long have felt more than disenfranchised. They felt that even their elected officials, which could be their mayor, city council, don't really listen to them. Yet the same people keep getting elected. So when we talk about, earlier, Mr. Norcross was talking about leadership matters. Well, leadership matters, including the people that are selected in the Democratic Party and the structure. That matters too.
Monique, do you want to add?
Yes. Just a little insight when you say disfranchised. Yes, I do see that. I think this should be the opportunity where Camden should actually get their elected board back. I mean, we need to have some voice, some transparency. I'm a parent. I go to the board meeting, and he talking about people don't show up. I feel like I'm talking to the walls half of the time. And it's not, I go for everything for all the kids, the curriculum, and it's kind of hard because I don't know if anyone ever been to a board meeting, but it's disorganized, it's frustrating. You're feeling like you're pouring out your heart, and you feel like a disempowered parent when you cannot have no type of input or anything, transparency with the whole board. So I guess when I see the state takeover, I feel as though, okay, now, once again, the residents are getting stampeded on, and now, we're not going to be able to have a vote on who should represent us, or we're not going to have any, and like Ribay say, I mean, I'm still listening to everybody talk, and I agree, reform starts in the classroom. We can have a leader, yes, that leader can help them get the materials, the supplies, execute why the text where all the equipment was in the warehouse or something like that. I mean, yes, those are leadership issues, but as far as reform, that's in the classroom.
Let's move to the classroom. And Karen, I want to ask you, you're in a district, or you're in a school that is a priority school, and the terminology being the state has basically under federal policy, there are new labels for every school out there, or schools that are subpar, and there's priority schools, which are the very lowest performing schools in the state. There's focus schools that have wide achievement gaps, specific ones within between different subgroups of students, and then there's the other end is reward schools, which are the very highest achieving in the state. Karen works in a school that is a priority school, and tell me, and you have started to see some of the work coming out of the RACs, the Regional Achievement Centers, the state. Tell me what some of those steps are, and are they making a difference? I want to follow up with a question that somebody who's a very good one. What are the one or two things? I think they asked for three, but time is of the essence. What are one or two things that you think would improve on the schools? But talk a little bit about what's happening now, and then we can go around the room a little bit.
Okay, with the priority schools in the building, it is a plus. Okay, we have someone coming into the building, actually going into the classrooms, taking a look without making teachers feel uncomfortable. We normally have principals, we have supervisors in the past that would come into the classroom. Having someone outside of the district coming in and saying to teachers, this is what is needed, why don't you work with this, why don't you do better with your, whether it's centers, whether you need to work a little bit better with classroom management. It is a plus with priority schools in the building. We have actually had teachers ask, the individual, can you assist? Because, we have many teachers in, they do need additional assistance when it comes to different issues that are going on in the classroom. We have teachers that may be coming from an elementary level, going to the middle school, which is different. We have high school teachers coming into the middle schools, which is a different category for them in the classroom. So it is a plus with the priority schools coming into the classroom. Teachers are feeling comfortable. They're feeling that they can ask for help. This is something that maybe they can prepare to get better at when there is an administrator coming in where they can make some improvements. So I have heard nothing but, and have seen nothing but positive things coming out with priority schools within the building.
Does that move achievement levels? Do those things you're talking about? I mean,
at least right now, we're looking at all the data, looking at the tests that are coming in, and we have seen some improvement. It may not be what you think looking at it all together, but there is improvement. Teachers are overwhelmed, with what's going on in the classrooms. When you're teaching in the classroom and things have changed down to changing the way that you're writing the lesson plans, changing into moving, instead of teaching as a whole group instruction, you're now breaking it down to the interventions and the strategies to attack, some individual strategies with students in the classroom. So not just the lesson planning, also with the data, having teachers look at the data, using that information to improve their instruction. There's a lot, that's going on, but they still feel a little bit more comfortable with someone else that is not within the building, not looked at as an administrator coming in just to evaluate.
Pam, talk a little bit. You've worked closely with the RACs and your own initiative.
Yeah, the governor has designated the lowest 5% of schools priority schools, but the NJEA, through work with many of the schools in need of improvement in the state, have decided over a year ago to create the NJA Priority Schools Initiative. And we have 12 schools throughout the state. 2 are in Camden, and we have 3 more we're hopefully working in next year, that we have gone in and we have supplied them with professional development based on the needs of their teachers from the lack of follow-through with all the professional development they've had throughout the years. We are going in. We have a non-Camden person who was a retired teacher, who was a facilitator or a coach, who has special skills that is there to go into the classroom, sit with the teachers, and work bottom up, build that systemic change, that strong instructional strategies that our students need. In Camden, we have pockets of innovation. You have the Brim Medical Center where wonderful things are happening. You have the Performing Arts High School. trophies all over the place. They don't even have shelves to put them on. And no one knows about this. We have, some of our schools are reaching out to the New Jersey Center for Teaching and Learning, and they are being trained in the PMI math initiative so they can add rigor to their math lessons on their own in the classroom. And then we had the Priority Schools Initiative. And I think we know, as it was mentioned here, that real systemic change in schools has to happen from the bottom up. Next year, we hope to have a network of 5 schools to really build some strong, innovative ideas. I have to point out the president of Camden Education Association came here. We are here only because she invited us to come in, and one of our consultants is also here who spends her days in Pine Point Middle School. So it's some wonderful things are happening, and the teachers are open, and to have teachers say, you know, I once learned about flexible grouping, but there was no one in the district or in my building that could model for me. Do you mind coming in? When you've got middle school teachers willing to do flexible grouping and opening to all kinds of change, good things are happening.
Let me ask you, you know, from somewhat of an outsider's point of view, but knowing the schools, what are 1 or 2 things that if you could dream that would help? And it's unfortunately dreaming away poverty is probably not one of the chances you have, but how schools can improve upon themselves, maybe addressing some of the poverty issues. But I mean, talk about what are the 1 or 2 tangible things that Camden schools could do to improve their lot?
Well, I believe that Camden schools have to be part of the community. It's not just a building that's open from 8 to 3. It's a building that's there before kids who need to go in from the high school to get homework finished or printed out on the computer, where parents can come after school and do homework in a library, in a computer lab, even to the point where someday there could be medical centers in each neighborhood school so that the families that belong to that school could have their health care taken care of right there. What technology, kids need the laptops in their hands, not the principals to do their evaluations. And the technology needs to work in their buildings. You know, they have smart boards, but you need an infrastructure where your smart boards work. You need tech people who know how to fix them when they go down. And you need computers and printers that work.
I think you listed more than one thing, but that's okay.
No, that's one big thing.
That's one large thing.
It's my dream, my one dream.
That's fair. Gloria, speak.
Yes, I love your question because, you know,
it's the audience's question.
We at Leap Academy, we've been doing some of this work, and we know that it works and I want to say, yes, that leadership begins, you know, you can lead from different levels, but we do need a new sense of leadership that not only values parents. It seems to me that parents are forgotten in this dialogue, and that they're critical. I mean, I could not have done the work that I've done here at Camden. I mean, I started with the Parents Academy early on, talking to parents about what was needed. And to this day, I will argue that it's my parents who really keep this place. So a comprehensive model that looks at extended day, extended year, looking at, when you talk about community, we're talking about really engaging community, building schools that are reflective of the needs of those parents. We value their voice, we value who they are. And not only that, but we also value our teachers. And we say to our teachers, you know, part of the dialogue here about those RAC centers is that I think the RAC centers have every good intention. I think they came in maybe a little bit too late. And so I will hope that the governor and that also the commissioner will keep them, because I do see the work that they're doing in terms of you know, building community with those classrooms. I mean, when you have a district that doesn't have a K-12 literacy curriculum, so you gotta begin there. I mean, how bad can it get? It can only get better. And I think for the first time, those RAT centers are now saying, we need to teach teachers how to use data to drive instruction. So they're working with those teachers. You know, we can't say that this is a result of, and continue to blame. I really argue that we need to transform the district. We gotta stop talking about reforming. There's no way you can reform. You have to transform it. It's a new day. I mean, there's just so much out there that we can learn from. If we just say, let's be open to innovation, let's use the technology. I mean, it's not $23,700 per district. And when I looked at the numbers, it's $30,000 with the outside federal dollars that we're spending on every child. And again, I'm not here just to advocate for charter schools, but I will argue that we get $15,000 per child. And we have extended day, extended year. We produce results. We don't have all the best test scores, but it's not about just test scores. It's about getting kids to learn, to read, to learn mathematics. It's about getting teachers to get their due when, they're paid for performance. It's about promoting community. And so I know we can do it. I know we can do this. This is not Rutgers science, folks. I mean, people say it's difficult. You bet it is. It's longer hours. It's working hard. It's believing in people that nobody ever cared for. I mean, we get kids that don't know how to read and write in 4th and 5th grade, for God's sake, and we got to turn them around, and we got to teach them how to read and write. And whose fault is that? Well, guess what? We're all accountable. At the end of the day, this is a community here. We all got to take responsibility, and we got to say, okay, this is an opportunity to fix it. So I'm saying that it can be done. It can be done, and I think that when George speaks about leadership, it's critical. Leadership matters. It matters because you got to set a shared vision. And that vision has to come from parents, teachers, the community, everyone saying, we want to do this because it's about the kids. We got to stop having Camden being in the national news and an embarrassment to the country. Camden has great news. You're absolutely right when you say you got schools that are great with good principals, but nobody's talking about that. Good families that are doing wonderful things, that are getting up every day to make sure that their kids get dressed up so they can get to school in spite of all the challenges. So, we got serious issues here. And, this is why I welcome the opportunity, because I think that if someone can do it, we can do this. It's not rocket science. It's been done in other places. We got the best minds in this table, in this audience. We have great people, great teachers that we can, take the lead. I mean, so this is the time to do it.
Another multifaceted one answer.
John, can I make one? I just want to point out that Gloria was stand behind her test scores, but when the governor took over the other day, he even made the comment he could not guarantee an outcome when he takes over this district. That concerns me, at least,
Kathryn Ribay, you work in Collingswood schools, and you've worked in Camden schools. As a teacher, put yourself back in Camden schools. What one or two things or several things that you have in Collingswood that you didn't have in Camden, that would make for a better education for those kids?
I think honestly that it's not about sort of what you have or what you don't have. I think the most important thing, like I said, is training teachers. I think that, yes, the RACs are coming in and doing a lot of really important work. My concern with a lot of what they're doing, because of sort of how thinly they're spread, a lot of the feedback that they're giving is in terms of, do this, use this strategy, here's how to do this strategy, and ultimately what I think would make a huge difference is getting our teachers even beyond that, to just beyond where they're just proficient and able to effectively use all of these strategies, to where they're artists and where you can walk into a classroom and say, all right, my 3rd period today, I'm going to teach this lesson this way, but my 4th period, that is a totally different group of kids.
Why does that not happen in Camden?
A lot of it is the support isn't there. In terms of professional development, it's been mentioned that there's a lot of professional development that is very, you get a few pieces, and then I think the follow-up issue was mentioned earlier. That's a really big part of it, consistency. And honestly, giving teachers space to dream and go beyond just compliance. There's a lot of pressure on teachers in the district to be compliant. When you walk into the classroom, these are the things that I need to see on your walls, whether or not you're actually using them effectively, but I have a set of things that I need to address, and to do that, I need to know that you've got these 5 things on your walls. And I'm going to walk around and make sure they're all there, but are they being used effectively? And that's my big concern.
So a lot of it around teacher quality and training, and not the case in Collingswood. I mean, is there a noticeable difference between them?
I mean, you see a lot of similar things elsewhere. So yes, I mean, there I have a great group that I work with where I do have that space. I think someone also mentioned earlier about teachers saying, please teach me, I want to learn. I think sometimes there's this idea out there that teachers don't want to be told what to do, just kind of want to close their door and teach the way they've been teaching for 20 years. But most teachers want to learn and want to get better, and when those opportunities are presented, are finding themselves saying, yes, please teach me more. And so making those opportunities as available as possible.
You're in the classroom, Karen. One thing that would make you think would make a real difference in your school?
It's kind of hard to say just one thing that would make it better, but I know that when there are many goals that is presented towards teachers, okay, that's the difficulty, that teachers are having. When you have it coming from the top that, all right, I want you to help with parents coming in, get your parent support. I want you to also use this data. I also want you to get better with writing your lesson plans. I want you to use, the different types of strategies. We have too many goals that we're trying to accomplish. If we want to do a great job, let's try to focus on 1, 2 a year, and we can do better with just the 1, 2 instead of having 10, 8 different goals at a time. I believe that's basically what we need to work on.
We've gotten a lot of questions, and I sort of moved it to the end for a reason, but it's time to talk about some of the issues of school choice and charter schools. This is a district that is moving quickly towards a large number. I think I heard one set of numbers that within a year or two, a third of the district will be in charter schools or non-district schools, and with the advent of Renaissance schools, it could move further and further towards that. Let me speak to a couple of the folks who are involved in that and why they think that will make a difference. Why we can debate the merits of charter schools, and I don't think there's one story of charter schools, much like there isn't one story of district schools. They vary in quality, they vary in achievement. Let me ask, and I'll start with George. Why? We've talked about the things that are or are not happening in the Camden public schools. Why are charters going to be, and why are they? And there's some iffy ones now too. Why are they a better lot for these children?
Well, one thing that's been fairly evident is that this district, for years and years, has had a strategy of hope. Hope is not a strategy. Hope, I hope this is going to happen, I hope that's going to happen, and much of it has never happened. Now, if you want to look at what might be a model new school district, take a look at the Renaissance School Program, which the school board recently approved for approximately a quarter of the city. Many months went into the planning, the engagement of the community, of parents, of religious leaders, and of other leaders in the community about what they wanted in a brand new school if they could have it. And that question was just asked. Things like longer school days, longer school years, early intervention programs for testing for kids, so that you don't find out in the 4th grade there's a learning difficulty that can't be cured, one that should be cured early. Healthcare services, I heard someone mention that. In our new Renaissance School at Cooper, every student and their family is going to have access to high-quality healthcare services like a student in Cherry Hill or Haddonfield. These are the kind of things that are going to be offered in a new school. Teachers are trained for years before they enter the classroom, and that's something he should talk about in detail. This was not something that was put together in a hurry. To their credit, the NJEA was a partner in that legislation, which is pilot legislation. But all in all, the kids in this city and their parents are entitled to immediate access, if they choose, to quality education. Whether that is a voucher program that will enable them to go to a school that they feel is appropriate for their child immediately, whether it's through a charter school where almost 30% of the student population resides today. The Renaissance School is a public school where there's going to be automatic availability for seats. Automatic availability, just as a public school is. but it's a new test pilot school, which will spend the amount of money that's necessary to educate a child. There won't be excuses of why IT doesn't work, why teachers can't get training, why they can't raise their hand and say, I want to learn more. You're starting over. And I think the one lesson...
Is that the key, is the starting over? I mean, could Cooper have teamed up with a district school offering similar services? No, I mean, I'm not...
You sure could have. And my first initiative 2 years ago was for the state to consider what's done in Philadelphia, which is taking failing public schools and turning them over to public-private partnerships in order to recalibrate schools, and that was met with enormous opposition. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear what he was...
Sorry, keep going.
I think alternatives need to be presented. And I think parents today don't want to hear my child is lost in another school year. And they need to be provided with instantaneous access to what they deem is appropriate. If it's a charter school, if it's a LEAP Academy, if it's one of the other charters in the city that are high quality, they ought to be afforded that opportunity instantaneously, not 3 years from now, not 7 years from now, because every single year that goes by, another class of kids could very well be gone. And I just want to remind everybody, this wouldn't happen in the suburbs. It would never happen in the suburbs, never. It wouldn't be tolerated in the suburbs. And it shouldn't be tolerated here. There shouldn't be 3,000 kids on a waiting list to go to an alternative school or to want a voucher to go to another school. It's unacceptable.
Ryan, I want to give you an opportunity. Talk a little bit about, folks may not know KIPP's model very well. I got to know Ryan in Newark right when he started. I think I met him as he started and have followed KIPP's progress there. And talk about what you hope to bring to Newark, or I'm sorry, to Camden, and the lessons of Newark that might apply to Camden.
Yeah, I mean, so as George mentioned, this is one of the things we like about the Urban Hope Act is that this is a public school. It's part of the public school district. Charter schools are public schools too, but they're not part of the district, and so sometimes people use that to say that to pit charters against district schools. In this case, we were approved by the school board, the district school board, and our test scores will be part of the district's success. And we are working closely in concert with the district, and also we, as George mentioned, admit all of the students within a sending area just like a district school does. So we like the fact that from the outset this is a partnership with the district. From the outset, this is part of the solution to helping the Camden School District improve. In terms of what we hope to bring to Camden, our schools in Newark, 85% of the students we have with us in 8th grade go on to college, 85%. That's at the bottom line, that is what we hope to bring. We hope to even do better than that in Camden. In one of the students being your niece, of course. The charter school fan club has come down from Newark, and that's part of what. But we have passionate advocates in Newark, and unfortunately, sometimes the dialogue is charter versus district. That's what needs to end, and that's what we can be part of a solution that doesn't say charter versus district, but all the kids in Camden matter. All the kids just like all the kids in Newark matter, and that's what we can be part of. In Newark, 8,500 students, 8,500 kids are on our wait list. We serve 2,000, but we've got 8,500 on our wait list. So we want to be a big part of what happens here in Camden, and we hope that we don't just see the students in our schools as our students, we see all the students as our students.
Monique, speak to, as a parent, aren't choices good? Isn't it having the opportunity to have extended day? I mean, this is a...
Well, that's an interesting word when you say choice. I am a parent of Landing Square, and I'm mandated to have a school that I didn't choose for in my area. So when you say choice, you should have an option to pick and choose which school you want your child to go to. And I not only have my current son who was there, who has his school dismantled last year, but I have three adult students who went through that same school. So it's kind of a little touchy with me on that. And as far as Renaissance being, yes, it is a public school because it get public funding, but it's not a district, part of the district school. So district, that is 95% funding. That's why it's called. It's not a traditional public school. And I have to say again, I don't like being selfish when you say you have certain children and children waiting in lines and on the waiting list and stuff. I want all the children to get better quality education because they all deserve it. Every last one of our children, regardless what the name is on the school. Camden's only, 9.35 miles? We have, 17 charters already with 5 getting ready to come in? And then what's going to happen to the traditional public schools where our ESL learners and our special needs are going to be left back? What's going to happen to them? And there's no funding. We get cut funding for the last, almost going on 8 years. You know, the last 4 years we lost 28 million. And it's kind of touchy for me, and don't take it the wrong way. I'm speaking angry because it's personal. And my thing is, the governor says, the public schools don't need no more money. But yes, let's put in some more charters or some Renaissance and give them 90 and 95%. That's a contradictory. It's a contradictory. And that school spending that they put for our children, that they say 23 to 30,000, honey, it's a different story when you allocate the special needs because we're paying about 40 to 60,000 each on those children.
For more information on NJ Spotlight programs, visit the website njspotlight.com. We produced this program in the studios of Lubetkin Global Communications in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, on the web at lubetkin.net. For everyone at NJ Spotlight, this is Steve Lubetkin. Thank you for joining us, and take good care. NJ Spotlight, where issues matter.